Hey everyone, this is Austin Schur here with We Write About Music, and today I am super happy to have back on Constance and Jared Watkins of Super Love. They have just released their newest single titled The Real Me, and I am super excited to hear all about it. Guys, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. How are you?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
You're
We're
very welcome.
fantastic.
Nice. It has been a little over a year since we last spoke. So before we get into the song, I want to hear the update. What's been going on musically and in life?
Well, we are working on our second album. We've gone to a little cabin off a lake in the middle of nowhere, just
Nice.
very off the grid, and we are working on writing.
Nice. Well, are you near where you usually at, or just
We are very far north. It is cold
nice?
here.
Very cool. That must be nice though, because I'm in LA right now and I'm sweating my butt off, and it is very
Yeah,
uncomfortable over here.
we keep hearing about the heat wave, and we
Yeah,
haven't seen much of it.
that's okay. Sounds pretty nice. Well, obviously, I want to talk about this song. It's called "The Real Me," and first thing I really want to know about is what is it about? What directly inspired its creation?
Uh, the real me is about the duality in all of us, the person that you are during the day versus the person that you are at night. Which one of those is the real version of you? Seeing yourself in two lights. Um, yeah, finding that comfortable balance in differences.
Nice. And so obviously, the direction of the sound has changed a little bit. As I mentioned before we started recording, the bass line on this is about as groovy and funky as it comes, but it's also a little bit different from what I've heard in the past. So, what was the thought process behind the sort of pivot in sound?
Well, it started with a groove, and it really is a groove
Hmm.
centric song. Like it leans on it. It doesn't deviate too much, uh, and it has a kind of a Latin beat to it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally. No, no, it really does though.
I love that though. It's hard
Yeah,
to not dance. Hard to not
right.
get into it, and so it came together. I was playing the groove one evening, and
And humming a melody. And this isn't our usual process. Usually, we write lyrics and music separately, and then kind of comes together and we mold it and shape it. And this one, we were just sitting around jamming. You were playing a groove and humming a melody, and I was like, I have this song. I know this song, and pulled up some lyrics. I didn't have. I think I had maybe two or three lines, and wrote the whole thing that night. I mean, refined it as we went after that, but like
Honestly,
the
some of the
sound
best
just
songs come
really,
the quickest.
right? Yeah,
Totally.
when the sound speaks to you, you say what it is.
I fully agree. Now, are you guys still self-producing?
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, you're still
yeah.
doing that. So, okay,
I'm doing the producing.
nice. A couple things that I want to know. So, the last time we spoke was in April of last year. We talked about Bored, and our last review that came out for the Moon was in this previous April. So, I want to know, have you changed your approach at all to creating music? Like, obviously, we're always learning, we're seeing how things work and the technical side, but like inspirations or just anything along the lines of creating.
It it has gotten much more streamlined. We've
Oh,
seen, I would say, we've
Yeah.
seen kind of the breadth of what goes
sure.
into production,
Mhm.
and we have our preferred way, our preferred our preferred ways of getting into it.
Mhm.
Uh, like usually starting with the bass line, sometimes starting with the drums. It's always going to be the rhythm section,
Mhm.
Hmm.
and lining up the drum beat and the bass line
Mhm.
together, and then
And then the emotion of the lyrics and how it ties in to the sound, just
mhm,
really aligning the emotion.
and the
Sure.
melody. So
Totally.
dialing the melody in with hooks is very important to us. You know,
Yeah.
triads, not just kind of letting it go completely off the cuff,
Right.
but making sure that it has some kind of you know jazz or other musical
Oh, I
element to
understand.
give the hook.
Yeah.
Right. Do you feel that like oh, sorry, please go.
And to your point that this one does sound different, if you look back through our repertoire, we haven't really stuck to one sound
Right.
solidly so far. We do have themes and they do tie together, and it does, as you listen through them, they all feel cohesive.
Yeah.
But while we are still indie, we really like thrive in that experimental place.
That's awesome. Do you find that the experimentation it obviously allows you to do whatever you want, but do you see yourself potentially like honing it in the future? Or are you just kind of waiting on feedback for these individual singles?
Um, I feel like with everyone, it does kind of hone it a little bit more.
Yeah,
This one is it's a bit poppier and a bit rockier than what we've done before, but we've done Latin before, and we have Stream It Until it's an
right.
older one of ours, but it still has that Latin beat and feel to it.
Nice.
Um, yeah, so we are always refining and honing in, but still enjoying that we're not constricted.
Totally. Now, I also want to talk, well, you just mentioned about streamlining the process because I know that everyone works in different ways and they're always changing things up. But do you find that the process is a bit streamlined because you're growing as artists and you've kind of not necessarily refined the music that you're making, but things are making more sense on the technical side, so you can do things quicker?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah,
That's definitely there. The more you do it,
sure,
the more
sure.
it's just a process.
Right,
And the expectations of what the path, the process will be, and what the outcome
right.
will look like
Mhm.
has, I mean, it just, we get used to seeing it. And
No, I totally understand. I think it's like that for anything though in life. Like, at first, it's always difficult, but then you find ways to take shortcuts that make sense for you without cutting quality. I think that's what you found here. And yeah,
absolutely. One of my favorite things that's happened is the fear of the unknown has kind of disappeared.
yes,
And it's really liberating. And then we can
totally.
kind of focus on making it artful
Right.
or artistic.
I, I would say, especially for musicians, like people on the outside don't realize how much work and time and effort goes into actually making music. But on your guys' end, you don't want it to feel like a job. You want it to be an escape from your real life in some sense. So it's like if you're paying such close attention to like, okay, we have to be perfectionists, like no, you need to have fun with it as well. Yeah, it's there's just too much that goes on in the back end.
Well, and art is better when it appears seamless, when it
Right.
appears effortless.
Totally. Yeah, people can tell the tryhards from the not. So I
I
fully
don't.
understand.
Movies and plays have the suspension of disbelief. I'm not sure if music has that too, but like
Mm,
believing that you're watching a real story, believing that you're really listening
right.
to the feelings coming from the artist instead of just a performance.
Mhm.
I agree with that. I think it comes down to like lyrics too. It's the difference between, I mean, because that's the story. That's what people are believing or not. And I mean, you could talk about like hip hop or rap music. It's like people talk about things that might not be happening, but there's also a sincerity to it. Like if you're talking about something serious that happened in your life, a personal story, I think it comes through in your delivery as well.
Absolutely.
So I mean,
You're
yeah, that's
you're
a suspension of disbelief.
And I think Constance is expert with lyrics as
Thank
Yeah,
you.
well.
Mhm.
If I had to give one reason only, uh,
sure,
because
there's
it's
plenty.
not yeah, you're not not so they're not so specific that it only has a localized appeal,
Yeah,
broad enough to recognize feelings that we may all have at some point, which makes it
right.
dynamite, I think.
I agree. Now, in your guys' process of making music, do you find that you work on one song at a time, or are you working on separate projects? Because you mentioned that there is an album on the way, correct?
There
Right.
is.
So are
Uh,
you hopping back and forth, or are you just like one and done, two, let's go?
I think that individually we work on our own. Like we have the plan,
Okay,
we know where it's going.
sure.
Like you've got a backlog of some sound
Yeah.
to go with it, and I've got a backlog of some lyrics. And
Nice.
then I will sit down and say, well, which one do we feel like? Like which one's striking the chord today? And then we really dig into that. So it isn't that we'll record one and then refine it while we're recording the next one. Once we start working on it together. We worked through the whole process together.
Makes sense. Now, on the topic of the actual sound of the song, like you said, it definitely has Latin inspirations to it, and it's definitely instrumental heavy.
Mhm.
Do you think that's coming down to what you guys are listening to in your free time? Like, is what you listen to have any direct effect on the music that you're making, or do you try to distinguish the two?
Usually I would say yes to that, but
Okay.
with the real me, no, it's not really influenced by any
You know,
existing.
Okay.
it was crazy. It really it came out of nowhere. Like it was uh, just a mood from a late night jam session. It evolved.
Mhm.
It
And some frustration too.
definitely.
How so?
Well, you can see through the lyrics the duality, the real me, the
Sure.
am I who I am during the day or am I who I am at night? And
Right.
it just I definitely emotion in there. And yeah, the process was very different. And so I don't think it was influenced by what we were listening to so much as just purely what we were feeling.
Makes sense.
One thing we like to do is to kind of push the envelope. It seems like maybe an artistic responsibility in a way.
Mhm.
Uh, but in this case, because of Constance's impressive range, especially on the low end, we really bottomed out what she could hit melodically,
Sure.
and you'll hear it in the track. Uh, it was that was one of my goals was to just exercise and kind of show off. I don't
Yeah.
for enjoyment. What you could sing.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Now, do you like do you have any training in singing, or do you just kind of like let it flow? Because I
Yeah,
love your
I
style.
do.
Like it's so unique. But there's got to be like, yeah, I learned it from this person, or I heard this person.
You know,
What's your Wikipedia summary?
Yeah, we're adding to the page right now.
I do have some training. I grew up. My mom was a singer, and I grew up in choirs. And I actually have some really fantastic vocal training. Should I drop names? No, just
If you want, you
yeah,
you do go. You take.
yeah. I still take lessons.
Awesome.
Yeah, from New York's best. I have a friend who's in the industry, and yeah.
You can say who she is.
I go to Katie Agresta. She's trained some of the very best out there. Like you look her up, and her portfolio is very fantastic.
Very cool.
And I get to meet with her, and yeah, it's fun. So I'm always exercising,
Uh,
always
it,
making it better.
you're never done learning, no matter what industry
That's
you're in.
True.
And you're never done perfecting. But it also gives you the opportunity to sing on these songs that are not like your so-called typical style. And it shows off as much as you guys are changing as a duo. You kind of have to fit the bill for what the song sounds like. So I love it. Um, Now, as your guys' discography continues to grow, I'm not sure if we covered in the past because concerts were kind of like we don't know what's going on, but are you playing shows or is it something you're interested in or currently have in the works?
We are definitely interested. We haven't started performing yet.
Okay.
Like I said, we really are in the middle of nowhere. There is no
No, I
friends
believe you.
to play. uh, but that is on the horizon.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Such a good.
How would that look? Would it look like would you enlist a band or would it just be you two up there? Have you ever thought through it?
That is the big question.
Yeah.
We have talked through a lot of different ways.
So I play the instruments, and in a performance, I don't think it's realistic to play
Everything.
much more than one
Absolutely
at a
not.
time.
That would be impressive in its own right, but I hear what you're saying.
So that's a challenge. Definitely a full band. Usually, our music has drums,
Mhm.
bass, guitar, and
Piano
piano
or
or a
something.
synthesizer.
Mhm,
And
Got it.
so and singing.
mhm.
And so there's some positions there uh, that we'll have to answer.
We'll figure it out. I mean, you could always go backing track route.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Of
You know,
course.
we've thought that. We've also thought about how we could potentially strip it down.
That would be cool too.
Yeah, do the live version, which would just have a definitely different feel to it.
Nice. Well, if you ever make it down to Los Angeles and you've got a show like
Absolutely.
that, please let me know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So I've been asking people this lately, and it's kind of an interesting one in your guys' situation with the changing sound. But if you had to sort of give an elevator pitch of what your music sounds like, if you had to describe it and say, hey, this is what we're making, I think you might enjoy it, how would you do that?
Do you want to take a stab or should I go for it?
You go for it.
It's elements of rock and pop, but very influenced by older music, historic music. We love older rock. Jazz definitely always makes its way into it, and punk.
Oh, totally.
Funk.
Definitely funk.
We love so many
funk
kinds
is there.
of music. When I was a kid, I used to get a lot of complaints from my friends about changing the song too much. I just liked lots of different. And so,
I say this all the time though, like with advancements in technology and especially in production, it's not just pop music anymore. It's not just rock. There's so many elements and fusions and blends of everything that you're allowed to sound like whatever you want, and it benefits people with large, loves for different genres. So I say keep it up. Like what's stopping you? Plus, you kind of capture audiences who enjoy a little bit of funk or reggaeton or whatever it is.
I'm one of those audience members.
Right? That's what I'm saying. Like it's all about casting a wide net. Fully understand.
Well, that is totally one of our strengths that we don't pigeonhole ourselves.
Right.
Everything does sound very different.
Yeah, and it should, because why keep yourself to one sound? It's boring.
It's one of the advantages we have of being indie.
Yeah.
Totally.
There's not anyone telling us exactly that we have to produce something a certain way, so we're free to.
You make the rules, and like I said, that's what could potentially take the fun out of it. Is someone, like you make music for fun, not for someone to tell you what to do all day long. So,
and I think that's unfortunate for the artists if they have to figure that.
Sure. I mean, that's when it like comes down to demographics and what people truly enjoy and this and that. So, I don't know. Don't have to worry about that right now. So that's a good thing. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
So now with a new album coming out, I assume that there are other songs that you're very excited for. You don't have to give too much information, but is there one that you're really looking forward to, like for people hearing for the first time?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, don't have to get too into it, but more along the lines of like more on the experimentation and more like, hey, we're changing it up more.
There's one I'm excited for because its timing is not 4/4, it's 7/4.
Oh wow! All right.
Kind of catches you off guard because it may appear to end sooner. Each phrase may appear to end sooner than expected, and I think that would be really cool. I think it will be cool to throw into a pop song.
Yeah.
I'm certain it's been done before, and I hate to leave anyone out who's done it, but I just don't have an example right now.
No worries at all.
I'm excited to tackle that.
Very cool. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing it. Got a couple more for you. I want to know, it's been a very busy year of other independent releases and just like a ton of music coming out. What have you guys been listening to, and is there anything that you can recommend?
We listen to the Beatles catalog a lot.
I don't blame you. It never gets old.
It kind of depends on how we feel, whether we choose the later Beatles or the earlier. But they're all good.
I agree. It's nice to have that option.
We've been spending some time listening to the Rolling Stones, which I'm very ashamed that I am not familiar with. And so that's been really exciting. I mean, old stuff that's new to me.
I just felt
I feel the same.
I know.
No. I'm honestly saying.
You said that.
I am also afraid to say that, but it's the truth. Like I was personally raised on the Beatles instead of the Rolling Stones, and not like I don't know the hits or anything, but I couldn't name any deep cuts outside of the major ones. So I'm right there with you.
I see.
There's tons of
Kind of
us.
good. Well, good. We're not alone.
Serious. I'm serious.
I sense a division, on like what path of music
Correct.
interest you have, Beatles,
Absolutely.
Origin, or Stones. And I don't think it has to be this way.
It doesn't.
I think we can just have some great music, perhaps.
I
Understand
feel
it.
the same. It's great both ways. Uh, all right, guys. My last question for you is actually the same that I finished up with last time, but there's always new listeners. So I'd love to know for the person that is going to discover you from this, and for the person that's going to listen to your guys' music for the first time, what's an opening message that you'd like to say to them?
Thank you.
Mhm.
And you're awesome.
We hope that you enjoy it. We made it
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah. It took a lot of effort.
I love that. It's a fantastic answer. Jared and Constance, I want to sincerely thank you so much again for coming on. It's been a blast as always. And please let me plug your music for you. The song is called The Real Me. By the time this comes out, the song will be out. So we'll have links so that people can listen and share and follow along and do all that fun stuff. But seriously, thank you again. I hope you have an amazing time in the middle of nowhere, wherever you are.
Awesome. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And thank
You're
you for having us.
you're very welcome. Take care and I hope to speak soon.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye.